Yes, I agree. Let us begin. So welcome people to another Battle Angel Alita video. And for today's video, I would like to talk about a subject that delves further into the storyline by introducing two characters who don't come out until the Last Order comic series. And although these two characters come out later in the storyline, I think I could safely say that not only are these two characters prominent characters in the Last Order storyline, they're quite prominent in the entire Battle Angel Alita series in that they make a significant impact in Alita's journey. And of course, the two characters that I'm talking about are Sechs and Zazie. And for those of you who have read the comic, you know that these two characters become very close comrades of Alita. And you notice that I said comrade rather than friend. And if you noticed in my title, I called them Wingmen rather than companions. And this is because they have a very interesting relationship. I would not call these two characters to be really close friends of Alita's, although they get along quite well, more or less dysfunctionally. But they are not like the other characters who Alita cherished personally, such as Dyson Ido or Dyson Ido in the movie, or Figure 4, Hugo, Koyomi, Lou Collins, many of these other characters who Alita would definitely call personal friends. However, I do call them comrades or wingmen, or I could even call them nakama, because of the fact that if Alita was to go into battle, I can't imagine two better people to go into battle with her. If you were to think about it from an average person, these two people would be working relationships to Alita, not personal relationships to Alita. And just like a big businessman may require his partners to be able to get a large project done, a lot of the things that Alita needs to get completed successfully in Last Order pivots around the success of these two people. And because of that, I call them comrades. They may not be the easiest to get along with, and they may not be the right people for Alita to just shoot the breeze with, but my God, will they cover her back during a battle. Now, before I begin, I would like to give my usual spoiler alert. For those of you who have not read Last Order, since I will be talking about two characters who do not come out until the Last Order comic series, I will be delving into some things that may spoil you if you haven't read the comic and if you're interested in reading the comic. I'll try to stay away from plots as much as possible and avoid certain things that I know will be severe spoilers, such as Sechs's origin story. Although for people who've read the original series, especially the latter part of the original series, you probably get some idea of what Sechs's origin story is based upon his name, which of course is German for the number 6. But in any case, I'll try to avoid as much spoilers as possible. However, there is no way that I can completely be spoiler-free when talking about two characters that come out later in the story. So if you haven't read Last Order, and if you're interested in reading Last Order and don't want to be spoiled, then please turn off this video. However, as always, if you're interested in seeing what these two characters are like, then please join us. And for those of you who've just watched the movie, for all we know, these characters may not even come out because of the fact that they're further in the Last Order series beyond the original series. Although, I will be the first to say that, if I could see these two characters in the cinematic universe, I would be one happy camper. But in any case, that is my spoiler alert, and as always, please watch at your discretion. Okay, so to talk about these two characters, you first have to understand that the Battle Angel Alita storyline, all three, series, whether it's the original series, Last Order, or Mars Chronicle, it's basically a single person's journey, which of course is Alita. And although this is the story of one person's life, it does delve into support characters who come out to help her out, whether it's personal or kind of in a more professional fighting sort of situation. And so in the original story, there are people like Dyson Ido, Hugo, Koyomi, Radio Chaos, and many others. And even when you go into Last Order, there are other people such as Ping Wu, who help Alita out. But when it comes to battle, there hasn't been too many people who can stay up with the likes of Alita and take on the foes that Alita would personally handle, aside from Sechs and Zazie. And although I would like to say that Figure 4 did hold his own in the Toon series, when it gets to Last Order, since the challengers are so much more powerful, even somebody like Figure 4 would have a significant amount of problems. And in fact, there was a time when Figure 4 took on Sechs, and it didn't turn out too well for Figure 4. And so, what I guess the story needed were allies for Alita who could stay up with Alita. And so these two people became extremely valuable in the latter parts of the story. Now what's interesting is in the personality sort of view, none of these three people are particularly what you will call charismatic personalities. They are very dynamic personalities, all three of them, but all three characters are somewhat of a loner. They like to work on their own, and although of the three, Zazie is probably the closest thing to what you would call a team player because she is the commander of the Mars Kingdom Parliament Special Forces, and she is actually the lead bodyguard for Queen Lamera. She's also is one who keeps her cards or plays her cards close to her chest. And so these three characters tend to run their journeys single-handedly, I would say. And maybe that is one of the reasons why they can get along with each other, because of the fact that they understand that they could kind of leave the others alone and know that the others will be able to take care of themselves because they have very similar personalities and that they don't need to be with other people to be able to get their things done. But as far as detailed personalities, although Sechs and Zazie are probably the closest comrades to Alita, I can't think of two people who are polar opposites in personality. Yes, they're both chill. Or maybe I wouldn't say that. One is fire and the other is ice. One is complete passion and the other is cold, cold logic. Yes. It's very interesting to see these three interact because of the fact that one is such a chaotic character, in Sechs, and Zazie is such a cold, calculating sort of person. And it is these two personalities that help make them so competent in battle. If I were to take Western comics and try to find similar sorts of personalities, I would say the closest personality Zazie may have is somebody like Batman. Somebody who's dark, who's calculating, who's always thinking. Although they are very good in hand-to-hand combat and in weaponry, they're always constantly thinking like a chess game about what to do next. Whereas Zex, he is closer to somebody like Wolverine, somebody who's completely passionate and will be fearless in jumping into any sort of battle and will scare the enemy completely by ripping them apart. And they don't have time to think about logic. They're too busy killing people to think about what plan to do next. And so, although there are times when you see Zex do some very interesting strategies, overall he is a creature of passion, and because of that, he is the comedy character of the three. Now, the other interesting thing with regards to these three people's relationships is although Sechs and Zazie both have Alita's back, and many times Alita owes her life to these two, the relationship of these three people first started with both Sechs and Zazie trying to kill Alita. Now, these were under two different circumstances, and the situation and the reason for wanting to take on Alita were completely different. In the case of Zex, it was more personal, and I don't want to go into too much of a spoiler, but there is a very deep reason for him to want to take on Alita. And much of it gets resolved as he becomes her comrade in Last Order. However, there is an ongoing challenge between these two, especially within Zex's persona, in that he's always thought of Alita as someone to which he needs to somewhat defeat or beat. In the same way, I would say Vegeta always wants to defeat Goku. Zex always sees Alita as someone to strive up to, and eventually, if possible, go beyond her capabilities. And so he's constantly at odds with Alita. And as much as he's a comrade, he is also a challenger to her capabilities. Now, as far as Zazie is concerned, it is a completely professional reason. She was basically taking Alita on because Alita was infiltrating into the Mars Kingdom Parliament and potentially becoming a threat to Queen Lumera. Although there was no real threat, there was always this presumed threat just because of the fact that there was somebody infiltrating into the kingdom. And so, as the main bodyguard to Queen Lumera, and having an extreme dedication to her, Zazie went out to take out the people who were infiltrating into the kingdom. And so that turned out to be a very interesting battle. And it probably would have ended up as a battle to the death for one of them if it wasn't for Queen Lumera getting in the way and stopping the entire fight and telling both of them to stand down. And so, both of these characters were, in the beginning, adversary to Alita. But it is because of the fact that they were such skilled challengers that later on they could show that they would become good comrades if facing a common foe. And so both of these characters eventually become good comrades. And it is only because these two characters came up to support Alita that Alita was able to go up the ranks in the Zot Championship. And so if you look at the team, of the Space Angels, which is of course Alita's team, they consisted of Alita, Sechs and Zazie. And although there are other characters like Elf and Zwolf, I really would not count those two characters in, since they were mostly there for comedy reasons. And so, yeah, I mean, the major battles were taken on by these three characters. And despite the fact that they are both very competent in fighting, they do have completely or very different fighting styles. As much as Sechs does like guns, he is more favored towards hand-to-hand combat. It's one of the reasons why he wants to challenge Alita so much is because of the fact that eventually he would like to defeat her in hand-to-hand combat. And the reason, again, I won't go into too much because of spoilers. But yeah, although he does fire weapons and he's very competent at it, he is extremely competent when it comes to his fighting, hand-to-hand battle skills. Whereas Zazie, again, she is much more of a logical, cold, calculating sort of person. And for that, the ability to use handguns and the other ordnance becomes a major strength to her. And so she, although she is very good at hand-to-hand combat, tends to favor ranged weapons such as guns and missile launchers and other explosive type of armaments, such as mines and such things like that. And because she is a cold, calculating sort of fighter, my gosh, some of the strategies she comes up with are very interesting to watch. And both of them are extremely competent in the actions that they do or the strengths that they play on in their battle. It is a joy watching both Sechs flying around, slicing everybody to death, as well as Zazie, using her guns in the most interesting manner to take the enemy out. And because of that, both these characters have unique capabilities. They aren't just a copy of each other. And because of that, it makes for a very enjoyable read when you read about these three characters go up against such formidable foes. And so in summary, as much as, Alita Battle Angel or Battle Angel Alita is a journey about one person, it is nice to see the appearance of such pivotal characters that come out to make the story so much more exciting and enjoyable to read. And I'm very glad that Yukito Kishiro brought these two characters out, because that was one of the reasons why the future battles, especially the ones in the ZOT Championship, were so enjoyable and thrilling to watch. Now, of course, now that we're in Mars Chronicle, there is a situation, these three somewhat went off in their separate ways. And, of course, Sechs is now a babysitter nanny, taking care of little kids, which... yes, a frightening sort of thought, but considering the fact that his boss is Kairula Sanguis, then I guess he will behave. And right now for Zazie, she's in a precarious relationship with Alita. I think they are still going to remain comrades, but the situation in the story is so tense between those two that right now I think Zazie has no idea whether she should side with Alita or kill Alita. And so it'll be interesting to see how this moves forward. And I got a feeling that considering how strong a comrade both of these characters are, I got a feeling that these three will eventually come together again. And although, there always is a chance and it may be interesting to see an adversarial relationship between these three, I do find that these three work so well together that if they ever come back together again, I would like to see them working together again to take on whatever foe that comes out in the future. And so that's my hope for the future of Mars Chronicle. And with that, I guess I am finished with this video. So anyway, if you are a reader of Last Order, what do you think about these two characters? Were they as memorable to you as they were to me? And do you feel that there may be a possibility that these three will come back together again in the future to take on whatever adversaries comes out in the future? In any case, if you can leave your comments in the comment section below, as always, I would seriously appreciate it. And as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'll continue to make more Battle Angel Alita, Alita Battle Angel GUNNM videos in the future. And at that time, I hope you join me. In any case, until my next video, happy comic book reading, happy movie watching, and as always, giant nice day, everyone.